Hey everybody, this is Perch. I want the people involved in comics, whether you're a creator, whether you're a retailer, even the distributors, I want those people making money. I'd like them making good money. And I get pushback on that concept, and I'm never entirely clear why. I'm assuming, hopefully, that people are just kind of misunderstanding the point. It's not that comics has to become this Wall Street level, crack the whip, and everything that gets done has to have a specific financial purpose. Not at all. But at the same time, I think that people in comics, which includes even other people like news sites, I think that the news sites covering comics should be making good money because it's an interesting pop culture thing. There's a lot of people interested in comics and the content and the media around it, and so I think the people there should be doing well. Nobody is terribly doing well. There's a few people who have good contracts and good checks, and I think one of the nastiest things that I think would happen inside of the comic industry is if like there's like Thanos snap moment and suddenly everybody knew what everybody else was making. There would be some absolute shock and outrage from a couple people. I have this theory, and this is maybe a little bit of a paranoid, crazy theory, but I have this theory that some of the people who are creators in comics who are portray themselves as being, I don't know, let's just use the word strongest allies to a lot of the local indie up and coming creators. I don't know that the local up and coming creators are quite aware of the salary difference, where there's a massive difference, and I think that gets obscured. And I think the paranoid part of me wonders if some of the people who push so hard to be good allies are doing so because they don't want that fact ever really found out, that actually the money is quite massively significant. You just hear things every now and then. I remember hearing at cons like somebody get dismayed that a buddy helped them get into comics and helped negotiate their first deal, their first kind of page rate that they got, and got them a little bit extra money from what the publisher was initially offering. But then come to find out that the person who helped them get that deal was making about 5x that in terms of the rate. And it's like, well, I don't know. I suspect there's a lot of that going on, and I think that there's probably a decent amount of fear inside of comics that one day kind of this stuff all gets laid bare, and then there's a reckoning that takes place. What's crazy about that is that's not unlike the world. I mean, you go to any kind of tech company or bigger company, and you have these same kinds of things. You go down the halls at Microsoft, and you'll have somebody who's pulling in more than $1 million as a principal person sitting next to somebody who's cracking about 82K, and it's just how it works out. Fair, not fair, it is what it is. But I think in comics, I don't know if that fact is digested well amongst a lot of people. But I do want folks to make money. Whether I like their work or hate their work, that's actually kind of irrelevant to me. The appreciation for their work happens separately from what is a good rate that people should be paid in comics. And I do think that people who put out substandard work should not have an ongoing place in comics. But my definition of substandard is probably different from yours, maybe wildly different. I also don't think it's purely about who can put up the most sales should get the most cash, because it's you get a natural advantage. I think there's been some problems at DC, particularly in the Bat office, where you get people who kind of finagle their way in there, and they get paid more, but they're also doing Batman, so it's way easier to get higher sales if you're doing Batman than if you're doing, say, Deadman. You're gonna naturally have an advantage. So if you purely gauge your incoming salary on pure numbers, then it's going to create this interesting psychological effect of people basically stabbing each other in the front and the back in order to get the high popular characters to get the money. But the other side of it all is, and I've touched on this in a couple different videos, why, is there another factor to all this? Because this is sometimes the pushback I get when I say things like this. Is there another factor where, it's not about the money at all, that it's about, creative fulfillment. It's about being able to do what you want to do. To be able to live the dream of comics. I hear this a lot, and some people who are negative kind of come, counter my statements with this. And some of the blogs, because I've really started irritating, I think, some of the other bloggers out there. I don't know why. My only assumption is that it's the numbers because I'm growing fast at the moment. But by the way, does anybody understand how YouTube records their subscriber numbers? Because it makes balls out no sense to me at all what they're doing. Because I would expect that there's a daily accounting of new subscribers, and then that gets tallied up. But that's not how I grow. I grow in just weird fits and starts. Like there will be 10 to 20 subscribers in a week, one week, and there will be 500 the next. There is no correlation between popular videos or anything like that. It makes me wonder if the servers are, I don't know what's going on, but it just the growth makes no sense. It doesn't map to anything else. And now I'm even more convinced something is broken on YouTube side, because as I'm getting the numbers from iTunes and Pandora and some of these other places where the podcast is at, their numbers look like normal numbers, like regular steady growth. And YouTube's like just like a spaz. I don't get it at all. But I do know that jealousy is a hell of a drug, and I think that that's part of it. But one of the more frequent pushbacks that I'm getting a lot lately is comics should just be about passion. Comics should not be about the money at all. There shouldn't be any money in there. It should actually just be, the you're creatively inspired to do something. And that's all that counts. And I don't know how to wrap my head around that statement, because creators can say that, but they also want a good page rate. We see GoFundMe's out for medical bills and other things. So I mean, what are you talking about? Because the money clearly matters to people. It's not like it doesn't matter at all. So what is the outcome? Trust me, I am sure DC and Marvel would absolutely love it if they didn't have to pay anyone. Like if they could just say, "Oh my God, we didn't realize that everybody who wants to work in comics just wants to donate their time because it's creatively fulfilling to do so." They'll take that. They'll take you up on that. I mean, they're not gonna be like, "No, no, no, hang on, we need to pay." They would love it if all the stuff came to them for free. Hell, any company would. But that's not realistic. I don't think you need to put the money before everything else. And I think if you're a fan on the side, lots of people write fan fiction and do other things for no money because it's just their creative outlet, and that's fine. But at the end of the day, the money does matter. It does kind of come into this picture, and pretending it doesn't, or pretending it's kind of an ugly word and we don't really want to talk about it, think about it, seems that just seems absurd to me. I just don't get it. Um, I wonder, though, if a little bit of it is related to the fact, and so this is going to be a weird premise I'm about to toss out here, but think about it. I'm not sure I totally agree with what I'm about to say, but it's kind of been clocking around a little bit since this Deadpool Shueisha news. Why is it? I, Here's my premise. I think that Marvel properties and DC properties, but we're gonna use Marvel for the sake of this premise that I'm about to roll out. Uh, Everyone seems to know what to do with the Marvel characters in order to make money, really good money. Disney has figured out how to make big money off movies. Their toys that they license are actually profitable. I thought they were doing worse, but I was looking at some information, and the toys actually do well. Funko is just cranking out Marvel stuff, and that's one of their bigger seller parts of the line. The license for games and posters that are related to the Marvel brand go at a higher premium than almost anyone else, and they tend to sell well. If you look at the top selling toys and models and things out of Walmart, you'll see a ton of them are Marvel content. The video games, I know the Avengers, people have commented that it's a bust, but it actually, the sales numbers are quite good. I don't know if it is, I don't know how good compared to everything else, but it did well. Um, Even though it was, it was a heavy vehicle for Miss Marvel. It was arguably a Miss Marvel game with some of the Avengers in it. My problem, by the way, with the Avengers game as I played through it was not uh, Miss Marvel. It was that it was so goddamn repetitive. Like I just like over and over and over. It was terrible. But the Spider-Man game did quite well. It was actually one of the games that helped push the PS5 launch. Um, Across the board, it feels like everyone knows how to make good money off of Marvel projects, except kind of Marvel. The comics, on the other hand, seem to be a major struggle. Marvel is continuously being surprised by what's doing well. And for that matter, are you an X-Men fan? House of X Powers of 10 came as a bit of a surprise to Marvel. How do I know this? Because they under marketed it, they under shipped it initially, even with the trades, they underproduced and were caught unawares. Even though they've since really kind of gone all in into maximizing the Dawn of X, Reign of X brand, this initial launch seemed to catch them by surprise. All of their successes largely seem to catch them by surprise. They sign Abrams and Son to a fairly big deal. It seems like the money involved in that was actually way higher than I thought. And that title didn't do particularly well. And they kind of gave up after, an issue or two in terms of even promoting it. Like, it seems like everyone else, from licensing from Marvel branded toothpaste to toys to games to Funkos to everything else, feels like everybody has a pretty good handle on how to make a ton of money off the Marvel brand, except Marvel. And this seems to be underlined to me when I see that Shueisha is putting out Deadpool over in the Japan market, and it is doing great numbers. Like, it's doing My Hero Academia numbers, which in Japan is amazing. This is strange. And I think everything I just said, by the way, can largely be said about DC as well. One of the interesting things, there's been a lot, people like to clown on things like Birds of Prey and Wonder Woman 84 didn't make as much money and everything else. And yeah, if you compare it up against Marvel, for sure, Marvel is doing much better than DC. But if you take Marvel out of the equation and you just look at them on their own, even Birds of Prey was profitable. I know the whole meme went around Twitter saying, "Oh, it lost money." It didn't lose money. Saying it didn't lose money does not mean that that it was a good movie. Whether you liked it or not is up to you. I didn't think it was bad. I didn't think it was good. It was, to me, it was dull. I tried to watch it with my wife, and she lasted 12 minutes and was like, "Nope, this is stupid." That's my wife. Like, wouldn't she's like, "This is one of the worst things I've ever seen." She hated that. I don't know why. I need to do a video with my wife. You can meet Mrs. Perch, and she can tell you about how much she hated that movie. But she never saw it. She had 12 minutes. Like, I can't watch this anymore. And she watches a lot of garbage. Trust me. I show her all kinds of crap, and she could not sit through that one. Anyway, my point is, it feels like if you're not the comic publisher, you have a much better handle of how to go make money off your properties than the actual publisher themselves, and that seems a little weird to me. Does it to you? Um, yeah. Again, this is about a balance. I don't think you need to put in some kind of ball breaker Wall Street kind of, it's all about the cash, and you don't need to have the always be closing guy from Glengarry Gun Ross in there just screaming at editors all day long. But you do. I think you need more than what you've got today. I think there needs to be more, and I think it's for the betterment of everyone: the retailers, the news sites, the blogs, the publisher, the distributor, everybody. I think a little bit more money into this industry would be remarkably healthy for all. And I don't think you have to sell your soul and not be creatively bankrupt or any of that to get there. I think it's just a matter of paying a bit more attention to what you're doing. I mean, these other industries, I mean, do we think that the Funko people, I hate Funkos, but do we think that that company is full of a bunch of soul sucking, number crunching assholes? I know people who work up there. Their company culture is pretty good, apparently. I mean, people report that they like it, and they get good reviews on Glassdoor and places like that. It seems to be people like it. Okay, so they figure out a way to squeeze every possible dollar out of nerd culture. I mean, seems like you can have a good job and creatively do what you want to do. I cannot believe I'm making an argument for Funko here. This is time to wrap up. I think when when I hit the point of the video that I'm actually saying positive things about Funko, I've clearly gone astray. I'm going to go take some more cold medicine, and that is going to help me get out of this crazy thinking that I've come down to do. But what do you think? Money in comics. Don't you think a little bit more of it would help? Why is it such a bad? Why is it so negative that people get angry about this? Who can explain YouTube? Thanks for listening.